Welcome, everybody, to this interview. This is Dr. Karen, and I'm so excited to present this interview to you. I recorded it last year, and that was before a few things happened, but we're going to get it going today. I have been an intervention specialist and parent coordinator and advisor for since about 2002. The original reason for going into this was so that I could be a parent that was close to my children who were going into high school, and I wanted to be available. My story became my purpose and mission. During this time, I was certified. I have been celebrated by different law enforcement, government, and taught parenting around the world. I interviewed three people who are very special because they are all single fathers. One is not single anymore. Two are still single fathers. All three of them I love and adore, and they have done a wonderful job. Having God with them and having family to support, they've moved forward. This interview was done a few years ago. I apologize, last year. So, what you're going to hear is something that had just happened in court that day. Single parents are people who have been stereotyped and just felt like seen in the public they could never do anything right, and the children in the household can't do anything right. And it's always seems to be single parent households that people said mothers were running. Mothers. I raised my children alone, a boy and a girl, twins, and my son is very dynamic. My daughter is as well. Both of them are doing very well. I placed the right mentors around them. I placed the right uh, friends, jobs, everything they did. I was along with them to make sure that they had the right thing going around them because I was abused sexually and physically. I did not want them to have that part of their story. So, without further ado, I want to introduce to you three men who raised their children. And let me say for myself, I have one of my very best friends that was a single dad that helped me with my children when I had them. He did a wonderful thing for me. He knew how to handle it, he knew what he was doing, and they would go out with him for different things with his daughter, and it was really, really a blessing. So enjoy this interview, share it with someone you know that may be dealing with seeing a single parent household or someone who needs to be encouraged that they can do it well.
Good evening, good day, everybody. This is Dr. Karen, and welcome to Dr. Karen RX. As always, I'm so happy to have you here, and as always, I have a chance to interview some great people. So I don't know if you guys have been watching everything on the news, but for just a few days ago, actually yesterday, Susan Smith, who was accused of in 1994, over 30 years, she actually she accused a man of carjacking and then confessed to their drowning later. She got on the news and had a big story and all this, and her children was very young, 3 years old and 14 months, and it was a big deal. It just really, really made everybody think a lot of it. And she accused, unfortunately, because everything was going on then with O.J. Simpson and all this stuff, so she jumped up and accused a black man. And what was really, really great for everybody, white, black, everybody, is that the community didn't blame a black man. She did. So everybody was saying, everybody was looking around going, well, who is this person? We don't want people to be, guys were getting pulled over for nothing. And I remember it very well. So again, welcome. And as a parent advisor and intervention specialist, I have worked with parents for many years. And this case really bothered me and my family and friends and colleagues for years and years ago when it happened. A father lost his boys for a selfish reason that can't be taken back or done over, and it was to be with someone else. And it was someone else that did not want to have children, but they weren't his children. They had a dad. And so today I'm going to share very inspiring stories of three men who have raised their children or child on their own, and they have different stories, and it will just really give you a lot of encouragement. They have raised their children or child for months, whether for a few months or from childhood to adults. And I have a very good friend myself who I saw raise his daughter from infant to now adult, and now he's a grandfather, and she's doing very well. She did very well. And I remember when he had her, because it was just, I had not ever seen this before. And I didn't have my children then, and he's one of my best friends. He helped me and my babies, and they have wonderful memories of that time with him. So our next stories will have hope and the power of fatherhood through prayer, family, and responsibility. So first I want to bring in Mr. Roger Hill. He is he has a different kind of story of his life, children, and a testimony is very powerful. He is my ministry brother and friend. I had a chance to work with him, pray, and see what God did for him. So I want to bring in now, introduce you all to Mr. Roger Hill. How are you, sir?
Hey, Dr. Karen, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and I really, really appreciate and respect you so much, which you know, and I saw a lot of things happen around this, and I'm telling you, it's so inspiring to think about your story. So, Roger, share with what you would like to share with the audience about what happened when your children were little, and then we can go forward from there with how things are now.
Okay, we can start. Let's start at the beginning. So I married. I married a young woman I met in college. Beautiful, talented, gifted, loved the Lord. Powerful, dynamic woman. Fell in love with her, married her. We ended up having 4 children. She was told she couldn't have children. She had some medical things take place in her life. She wasn't able to have children, and so God blessed us. We ended up with 4 children.
Wow.
Yeah. So God blessed us with 4 children. So we had a phenomenal, faith-filled life just from the inception of our relationship. And so, just that experience alone, I knew there were certain things the enemy couldn't touch in my life, but I was blessed to just have somebody who was my true friend. I'm in the music, into music, into the arts, and she was classically trained. She could sing, so even culturally, we had a lot of giftings that coincided with each other. So we weren't just surface friends. We were actual friends who shared passions, who shared ideals, who shared, a lot of the things that make strong families. We shared those values. And so my good friend, by the time we had our 4th child, Abigail, she noticed a lump. She thought it was a blocked milk duct, and
Okay.
Upon further inspection, it was not. It was cancer. They said it's okay. We found it. So they were going to examine it. They ended up checking her lymph nodes and found it was in her lymph nodes within a month or so. And so they were just going to look at a few different things, and then they found it metastasized. This was all within 2 months of finding out she had cancer. We found out it was already stage 4. So
Wow.
we went from perfectly healthy in her 20s to stage 4 breast cancer, 6 months to live. And so we journeyed through that trip. She did a lot of natural things. She ended up living an additional 5 years, almost 5 years, when it's unprecedented even to live for 2 years with this. You know, we saw a lot of ups and downs to where we just believed God that she would be whole because the doctors were saying she'll never walk again. 2 years later, she's walking around in high heels. So it's just impossible things were already happening on a regular basis. So we built up to the point where it didn't matter what was happening. You know, God had already proven, you know, what's for us is for us, and that's what would happen. Unfortunately, she still passed away, so it was a shock because that's just not how things had been working, and that wasn't our expectation. And so that, as you can imagine, it's devastating. This wasn't a bitter friendship. This was my person. And so with that dynamic, you know, I don't know how to be a single father. That's not even a tie. I could even see one of the troubling things is when she passed away. I would do the prayer lines. People would call in and ask for me to pray with them. And so when I did the prayer lines, the first time, I think it was about 2 months after she had passed away, everyone who called in this day had lost somebody. And I said, I've never had anybody call for me to pray with them about grief. And now this woman's husband and this man's wife and his daughter, and everybody had to deal with grief. And I'm like, I am not ready to look at this because I'm still dealing with my own hurts. And so it was a journey. It was a journey. I'm sorry if I'm over talking out, Dr.
Oh,
Karen.
no. And I want to stop right there for just a moment because what you're saying is so important because a lot of people have to understand, even when you're listening to this, I want you to understand that a lot of things that happen to you, things that happen to us, Roger, it's not just for us. And we find out later that it's not. You know, and listening to what you said, you know, one thing I remember from a ministry class that I took at our ministry was that Apostle Wayne T. Jackson, at that time, Bishop, said to us, the very thing that you hate or hurt you the most is usually the thing that you are going to be called to do. And it's going to be a part of your ministry. And you had a deep compassion, and you still will, to be able to help men or people who had that kind of loss. Yeah. And right then and there, God helped you. And a lot of people don't understand when people come to you all the time and say, ask you a question, what do you think? Hey, this is going on in my life. A lot of times we have to stop and think in the back of our mind, I do know the answer. I know the answer because I went through it. Okay, Roger, this is very powerful. So you keep going. You're on the prayer line, and the prayer lines that he's speaking about, everybody, is at our ministry. And so, when we're on TV, there's a phone number you can call for prayer. So that's what Roger is speaking of. So you go on, sir. I'm not going to disturb you anymore.
Listen, you chime in whenever you see fit. So I'm on the prayer line, and like I said, people will call in. If we would just pray with people. Some people call in for salvation. Some people call in for prayer for their family members. Some people calling in to be healed. I've never, at that point, encountered anyone. And I would be up there for a few hours, and I never encountered anybody calling specifically for the loss of their heart needing healing. And I watched, and Apostle Jackson was not teaching this day on grief. Everybody who called my line, because other people were getting calls, everyone who called my line was dealing with a level of grief. And 2 months after, I was not whole by far. I was not even understanding the whys. I was not in acceptance of the situation. I was just hurting, and this was my reality. And it was quite overwhelming. And I'm looking at God like, what is going on here? This is not
right.
So you hear me talking about it now, and this is 5 years later. This is not immediate. This is, again, I don't even know if this time last year I will be able to have this conversation openly. My daughter is even within earshot, and she's smiling. I don't know that we would have been able to have this conversation and be okay, because it's not an overnight thing.
Right. Exactly.
It's a journey.
Yes, it is a journey. And I can say personally, from knowing him, I could tell everybody that I watched him through this. I knew his wife. I watched him through it, and I watched him continue to serve others. I watched him continually taking care of his babies. At that time, they were pretty young. How old were they? They were pretty young.
RJ 12, I was 10, Carol's 11.
12 and under. I think the youngest
12 and
was
under.
5, 12 and under.
Yeah.
My daughter is telling me the age. She said Abby was 6. She said 6, not 5. RJ was 12.
I was 10.
She was 10, and
Okay.
Carrington was 9. Yeah.
9. Okay. And I remember he would have them, everybody, and he would just make sure they were taken care of. And he did not try to make a lot of decisions without being able to make sure that he put God first. He prayed, and I watched him through this. And I'm not just saying this because he goes to the ministry I do or I know him. I don't say these things about people if it's not true. I watched him. And then moving forward, and he's going to talk about that now, he had me praying with him. I was one of the people, I don't know who else, I was one of the people that prayed with him for what was going to happen next in his life and making sure that it was God and the decision was God. He wanted to make sure that he was making a sound decision for his children. And I'm going to tell you, and that right there is enough. People just don't think about too many times how many people they have coming around their children. I am so disturbed as a counselor and still working with people in interventions. I am so disturbed at how many women are allowing men to come into their life in their home and hurt their children. Never, ever, never, ever. I'm telling you guys, listen, never, ever. I told people, I'm just going to tell you guys, I told people, these two children right here, I pointed to them, my 2 children, I have twins. I pointed to them and said, if you ever think about doing anything crazy around them, then you'll be running for your life. I might handle myself a little bit differently, but never with them, would you? So, okay, tell me now how you move forward. And I know your family helped you a lot through a lot of things.
So, yeah, you talked about raising them by myself, and I do want to – there's nobody who – it's not healthy to do it alone. Like, we weren't created to go it alone. I definitely have a support system. I definitely had people who I felt connections to, who I knew would be able to give me wisdom. And there are a lot of things that you build up along the way, right? And it comes out when you're in that traumatic experience. You're not actively thinking of it. You're at that point you're on autopilot because whatever is in you is going to come out because that's your foundation. You're not. For me personally, I know I wasn't actively thinking about these things, but there were things that I knew. Just for instance, in the African American community, I know single motherhood, well, not just African American community, across the board, single motherhood is the number one cause of poverty, right? And so if you're talking about strong families, strong communities, strong infrastructures, you can't have these things without certain family dynamics. And I felt like I was a loving father, but that doesn't fill in for a mother, right? And I know a lot of really good mothers, but that doesn't replace the role of a father, the covering figure of a father, the security, the way we think about things is drastically different. So there's a family dynamic that's necessary for healthy children, and you can even pull it from people in your community. But it is not part of my testimony that, and I'm sure some people may have, but I did not do it alone. I had a Dr. Karen. I had a mom. I had apostle. I had family members. I had church members. I had a community that was there for me. You got to realize, especially if you're going through something as dynamic as grief, you're not always acting in, like, you go through the cycles of the thing you're overcoming. So there were times when people would ask how I'm doing, and in my mind, I'm being honest. I'm not aware of the level of melodrama that I may be communicating in the depressed feeling that I'm experiencing. And I'm answering. I laugh at it now, but then I was dead serious. Like, how are you doing? Well, God is just. Like that. What? God is just. Or I'm feeling like Job. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Like, I'm just saying what's right, but I'm feeling all types of pain. And I didn't even notice it till one of my friends made a face like, what? He had that, what did you just say face? And I recognized, I'm not coming across the way I'm attempting to,
Right.
Yeah,
and it's important to be honest. And I hear another gentleman commenting about that, because it's really easy for people just to throw out scriptures, throw out quotes.
Yeah.
So and so said, Confucius said, God said, all this. And when you're being counseled, and when you're being counseled, I always tell people, let me start from the beginning and ask you this: are you willing to be honest with yourself, so you could be honest with me? Because otherwise, I can't help you. If I ask you a question of how you're doing, I don't want to hear how you're doing. Some people don't only want you to say something that has something to do with church, and they make you feel guilty if you say, I feel depressed, or I feel, it's so many places you have gone to. I went to a ministry, I can tell you guys, and I'm going to let Roger go ahead and finish this up so we can keep on moving. I went to a ministry where I told someone I wanted to commit suicide years ago. I want to commit suicide. You're not supposed to ever feel like this because you're at church. So when I tried to commit suicide, had a gun to my throat, and I'm praying like, Lord, please forgive me, because I know I'm not supposed to do this. Because of the power of God coming in my room, I didn't. I was going to kill myself and also take my children with me, because I didn't know what else to do. But I went to someone in leadership and told them that's how I felt. And they told me, you aren't supposed to feel that way if you know who the Lord is. Okay, so you're telling me all these things that the Lord is. I'm coming here every Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday night, special events, but I can't tell him what's really going on with me. And so, that's a big deal. Roger, I want to let you go on to get finished. I know you're somewhere that you need to be, and I need to bring other people on here, and I hear them commenting, and it's very good, and we're going to go to that. So where are you now, sir?
So right now I'm remarried. I have a total of 7 children now. I got grandfathered into a set of 3 children. It was a friend of mine from high school. And when you've graduated school as far away as I have, you get to a point where I love everybody I grew up with, so I didn't have to fall in love. Like, I already loved my friend, right?
Right.
So this is somebody I know that is passionate about God, passionate about their purpose, and genuinely cares about me. We reconnected. They were checking up with me, and we just moved forward in life. And I was able to be something for her children that they didn't have in their life, not because they didn't have a biological father, but he's in Texas. He's, light years away and doing something completely different with a family. And so what God had for me, he's the God who restores, and he did that. He started restoring different things, even, like I said, even my emotional social awareness and just how I connect to other people. My emotional intelligence is at a different level. I can father a son who is now in college, who at the time was struggling with grades, who was on different medicines for things that I had wrestled with as a child, but I never took medication for, so I didn't even know that side of him. And he's whole, and a lot of things.
And that's really, really blessing, and it's powerful. And let me tell everybody, that even though Roger Hill loved these people, he did not. These people were vetted by the Holy Spirit because he was bringing people. He said, listen, Karen. He told me the story. He told me what was going on, and we were all praying. And when I had an opportunity to meet the young lady, I could agree with him. Like, as your sister and as a counselor and seeing you, I'm able to say definitely yes. And I can say that was good. So, Roger, you know what? I love this conversation, and we're going to have to move on because I don't want everybody on here all night. And we are in the Detroit area, everybody, so you're hearing different states being brought up. We are in Metro Detroit. And tell someone who may be feeling discouraged as a single father, because you're not single father anymore, but as single fathers that need to know that if they have to do this, this is how you want to. What would be your words of encouragement to someone that's listening now?
Lean on that community, lean on God, lean on the Holy Spirit to lead you. Like if you have them, you have access to them. So just let God know you're trusting them for what's next in your life, and let God lead you. Yeah,
and that's good. Well, Roger, I do love you, and I thank you so much for being on and sharing your story. It was very powerful. Yes, very powerful. And we are praying for I'll be praying for your family and your daughter, and please know that your part in this is very important to me. I appreciate you, and I'm honored that you decided to come on and be a part of us. So until we talk again, I love you. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon.
God bless.
Bye-bye. What a powerful story. Listen, the guys that I have tonight are getting ready to blow your mind again. So I'm going to move ahead to where I began working with children. And we were talking about purpose earlier. I took a job at a school district to be available for my children because they were in high school. I am a single mother, and so I wanted to make sure every step of their life I was able to be involved and be a part of what they were doing, and I could take days off when they were off. You know, if I worked for a school district, when they were off for a break, I would be home. So I ended up I was supposed to be an assistant to a program outside of the schools. I ended up getting a position in the school and getting certified by a young lady who did not even live in the area. She's from Seattle, Washington. She came back and forth to seminars. I was speaking to her, and I basically got certified by her anyway. So then I became a parent specialist, an intervention specialist, a parent coach, and I had an opportunity to meet a lot of different families and children during my very first couple of years, and that went on for years, though. One parent that I met was when I met this gentleman because his children was having different difficulties in class. And we began communicating, and I'm not sure if I remember I called him first or he called me, but I know that there was things going on with both children in their classrooms, and the teachers were telling me about them. There was some emotional stuff going on, and we were concerned that there was some mental stuff going on. But he has become a very close friend to our family. He has become someone that I've known now for many years, and he has raised his children well. They are adults now and doing wonderful things. So I want to welcome now Mr. Andrew Bryant to Karen RX. Dr. Karen RX, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I'm doing great.
Good. Yeah. Listen, I heard you commenting when Roger was talking, and I know because you know that we have heard many people that have had to have different things going on, and they're afraid to tell the truth and be able to, without being judged.
Right.
But share with us your story, which you don't mind telling us, about how you raised your children. When I first met you and you told me you were raising your children, I was pretty much floored by what you told me, because I had never seen this happen before. So share with us, Andrew, if you don't mind, your story of how you raised your children.
Oh man, from the beginning, I was married to my oldest kid's mother for 9 years. We parted ways. You know, she stepped out on me, cheated on me while we was married. Had a baby on me, and we just suddenly just parted. She had custody of my first, and we went to court and all. We went through the court processes and stuff, and we walked out together. I was totally angry. So she asked me to keep him 2 weeks while she has a baby, and that was it. That 2 weeks turned into months, years. She never came back and got it. And it was like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know nothing about raising no kids by myself, because we was used to doing it together. So, you know, just being out there, it's like once I had them, it was just like I was like alone in this dark place, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Even though I had my mother, my sister, and, you know, it was still like dark to me. My kids, just like you said, they had emotional problems because they didn't have their mother no more. They only had me, you know, so it was just like, it was that separation thing with them, and it was all over the place. And it was like I said, I didn't know what to do. I was just needed help. You know, it was like, it's like my mother and my sister and them, it wasn't enough for them.
Right.
They wanted their mother. They wanted their mother. They wanted me and their mother to be like it was. So, you know, it's just like, oh man, I just, you know, try to get the church to help me, and you know, I'm a deacon in the church, and it's just like, you know, I that's why I can feel what the other guy was saying. I was like, man, I'm like, I'm asking the cloth to help. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It was like it wasn't there; it was vacant. And so that's why, you know, and they was having many problems in school and stuff like that. And so it was like a blessing that you had stepped into our lives, because it was like I couldn't get no help nowhere. Nowhere.
Yeah. And, you know, now that you're saying this to me and looking back at it, you know, they were having definite signs of separation anxiety. They were acting out. They were doing things. And a lot of people, Andrew, they just don't understand that when there's a divorce and children know, you have to work with them, have somebody work with them that, first of all, they are able to deal with the separation, and make sure also that they don't think it's their fault that this happened. And you have to be cognitive of the behaviors that happen.
Right.
Because children become angry and they do stuff purposely, and they really don't understand what they're doing. You know, they don't understand. So you raised them from that time all by yourself.
Right.
Did you think about that time getting remarried?
No, I wasn't, you know, because I wanted my marriage back at that point too, you know. I was still like in in that, wow, I still can't believe this happened. What happened? What did I do wrong? And this and that. And I was like all over the place. I was in a depression state. I was angry. Try to get help. It was like, it's really no help for men with a single father, because they're looking at you like, oh, you telling a story, or you're not being truthful. It was just like where's the help for the men who want to take care of their children?
Right.
And it wasn't there.
It wasn't there, and it's not.
It wasn't there.
It's not openly seen.
Right.
Mhm.
So just going through that, trying to pray with my children, try to keep them in church, but they're still acting out, and and just it was a hard road for me. But I just stuck it out, and I just kept doing what I had to do. It was like I couldn't find the right job, and it was just like falling all on me.
Yeah.
And then when I found a job, I had to get them up earlier to drop them over at my sister's house. I didn't have a car. It was just like everything was just falling upon me. Like it was.
And you know what, Andrew? Let me tell you this. I don't want to cut you off, but you're actually dealt with what you see women, single mothers, going through. No car, everything going on. And people don't think that, I was thinking about what Roger was saying, and it's two sides of everything, because, single women do go through a lot, single mothers. I was a single mother, and I did have a time where we experienced poverty. I experienced, utilities being cut off, all that. But the way I was able to handle it made the difference. And perhaps I could have let someone in sooner, but I didn't. I chose not to, because I didn't want anyone to be in my life that would hurt my children.
Right.
A son and daughter I had, and that fear might have been myself from what I went through. The fear, not might have been, it was. The fear was, I don't want them to have any kind of testimony that they were healed later on in life because a man molested them or somebody did certain things. And so I chose to raise them by myself. But what you went through was a lot of times what they think only women go through. And like you say, men don't have help. And I had so many men, including you, that I would say, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to call this place. You're going to call this place. You're going to get this, because men don't think they can do it, and they can. There's so much out there for them. And for grandparents raising their children, and for single dads, you don't have to be without. There is help for you, even though around you, people are going to look at you like you don't deserve the help because you're a man, and you do. So moving forward, how did things end up turning out? You could tell the audience, and, I love where they are now, and you could just finish telling that story.
Well, I finally, a lady at my church, she got me a job at Ford. And I think that's what was the turnaround. I was, by then I was in and out relationships and stuff like that. So I finally started working. It was still a little bit hard, but kids started growing up, started going to school and doing good in school, and then I got transferred here to Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And they was here for a minute, but they moved back, because they didn't really like it. So I wasn't going to force them to stay. So both of them ended up graduating from Inkster High. Now my son is in the military in Saudi Arabia at this moment, doing well. He had twins. One passed away. My daughter, she's doing good. She's working her job. and she got her own little business doing taxes.
Okay.
I got one grandson. He's doing well. Then I have three more additions.
Okay.
I got it. So now with them, all my kids are doing great.
Great.
So,
Great.
So
like
it's
you
just
never
amazing.
would have thought it happened.
Yeah, I just thank God that I kept God in my life through everything, and now I can look back. I'm like, I couldn't have did it without God and the people He put in my life to push me. Because I thought I was going to fail everything, fail my kids, fail myself, but He continued to push me, and my kids, it feels good when your kids say, "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on us. Thank you for your, you know what I'm saying? Thank you for when I can call you and vent to you, and you give me the right words, encouragement,
Yeah.
And, it's just, it just brings tears to my eyes just to see, that, through God I did that,
Yeah.
and I raised some beautiful people, they just thank me for just being there, never giving up, and say, I don't want to do this no more. But I just kept going and kept going, and now I have beautiful grown people, except one.
Yeah.
She's the new addition. So
yeah,
but, it's
and that's
just beautiful
good.
just to see them. Yeah.
Yeah, and we sometimes, because parents, period, the real parents, not I'm talking about real parents. They push and they push and they push and they push and they do. They sacrifice some more, push some more, do what you got to do. And then when you hear a child say thank you or tell someone else even what my parent did for me, it really does something to you, because at that time you weren't looking for thank you. You're looking to get through it, and get through it.
Right.
So Andrew, what would you let a father know today? And I have worked with fathers. I'm going to tell you that at that school, I had so many men coming to me, because I do court-appointed hours for men and women. And I have had so many men come to me over the years that need parenting classes so they can get their child back from the mother.
Right.
So they can get the child back. And I remember every single man who has sat in front of me and said, I need to get my baby back. And they were like, listen, if I need to go to some kind of rehab so I can stop drinking, they were willing to do whatever they had to do to get a child back. And so men in the community have power to help. So what is your message for those who may need some inspiration while they're listening to this?
My greatest advice that I give anybody is just put God first. Once you put God first, everything will fall in line. Just keep trusting in Him, keep believing in Him, and He will guide you in the right direction. And it's that's the most powerful thing I can give to any man. Keep your head up, put God first, and never give up.
Never give up. Yep. And that's what we said at the beginning of this. You men have taken fatherhood, and you have stories of greatness and hope through the power of fatherhood, prayer, family, and responsibility. And so taking the responsibility and not giving up is exactly what you're talking about. So thank you, Mr. Andrew Bryant, for being a part of the show.
Anytime,
I appreciate you I appreciate you so much, and I'm honored that you came and shared your story. I love your children, and I'm definitely going to be praying for your son in Saudi Arabia, like I need him to come on home. But since he's there,
me too. I need him to come home. Yeah,
you're right. I want him to come home, but
right.
please tell him that I'm praying for him, and I will definitely be talking to you soon. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, y'all have a blessed night.
Thank you. You as well. And you could definitely stay on the call and listen to my next guest. He's very powerful, and this story is very powerful. So my son, this goes back to my son being in high school. He was about 16 or so, and he began a martial arts school in Michigan, and Wing Chun Do in Plymouth, Livonia. And he became such close family to the students and the owner. And my next guest is one that became close to my son and then our family. And I'm telling you, I was so inspired by this gentleman. He, like all of you guys, he has a story that I admire so much. When I met him, he was raising a little girl on his own, and I don't know how long he had her, but I want to say maybe she was about 4 or 5 or a little bit older when I met her, but my daughter was telling me they all did a trip to Hawaii, and my daughter was saying that she went with them, and I did not know that she went. And, I mean, this baby was always on his hip. He took care of her. Next thing we knew, I'm seeing pictures of her coming to different events with him. I'm saying, who was this young lady? Because she's no longer a little girl. And he did such a wonderful, wonderful, blessed job with this little girl. And so I want to welcome, as my last guest for tonight, a very powerful story, Mr. Jeff Mallitz to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? What a great intro. Thank you.
Well, listen, that's the honest truth. I could have went further and further with that, but
I appreciate
you know, yeah, it was just. How old was your baby when Chris first came to the school?
I think she was about 4 or 5, like you said.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't go to Hawaii with us though.
Oh, she didn't.
No, she did. She did go to some trips with us for sure, but it wasn't Hawaii.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I've had her since she was all by myself since she was 9 months, and she's 22 right now.
Wow, 9 months. So, okay. Listen, I know you have a story that is powerful, and I would like for you to share as much as you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, of course.
With our guests. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, met her mother. She had actually come into the school with somebody else, and we kind of hit it off and clicked. Unfortunately, she was not in a good spot in her life at the time, but, you know, she treated me well. So we were together for a while, and then we ended up there was a lot of things going on in the workforce, unfortunately, that were not very productive at the time. So we ended up going to Indiana to where my mom was. Fortunately, there was little rocky circumstances there, and she ended up going back to Illinois, where she's originally from, and coming to find out she was pregnant. And we still stayed in contact. I did everything I could. I was working anywhere from 10 to 12 hours, 14 hours a day in Indiana on construction, saving up money. And then came back here, got an apartment, started living back here for a little bit just before she was born. When she was born, I went there to see her, and then I came back here and acquired an apartment and went back all the way 16-hour round trip drive to go get them, and came back. And unfortunately, her mother was not in the best way of, you know, dealing with things. Apparently, you know, unfortunately, rocky lifestyle, younger, you know, thoughts, you know, were very counterproductive. So unfortunately, she left and tried to take my daughter to certain places and ended up taking her up to Alaska to see her mother. And at the time, I had some court stuff established here, and he said I can make her stay. And for some reason, I was always a little over kindness, over trusting in some sort of ways. Like, when I'll let her go, she'll come back. You know, she's got a round trip ticket. I saw it. Okay, so she ended up going up there and staying up there, and I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise that I had to go through that much stuff, because she didn't respond to anything my attorney sent. She basically ignored the whole thing, so it looked much, much better in my favor. That I'm making effort, that I'm putting the steps in, and she's just ignoring everything. So basically, I had to go up there after I got everything established here, went through all the hoops here, went up there, had to go to court there one more day to get police assistance and court approval, and it was about a good hour and a half drive. Luckily, funny story, two parts of it. Well, she was here in Detroit area. She was staying at some place, and I found the address, and she gave me the address because I had to drop some clothes off. And I told my attorney, and he started saying stuff about the person that he knew. He goes, I was like, how did you know that? She's like, he said that was his old secretary. He knows exactly who she is.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And then another part is when she was up in Alaska, his current secretary, her boyfriend, her fiance, was up right where I was going, because him and a group of friends were all looking for work up there as like sheet metal workers or something like that, was going like up that way. So they all drove up there. So I stayed with all them at a hostel.
Okay.
For the weekend, and then Monday I went to court and got everything handled and got my daughter back and hopped on a plane and came back, and it's been me and her ever since. She's been about 9 months old.
Wow.
And I had her by myself, and I didn't get I had no child support coming in from her because her mother wasn't paying anything.
Okay.
And luckily I did get some help from, my mom and my aunt. They're professional shoppers, you could say, and they would always find her clothes. They didn't want me getting clothes from like any kind of secondhand shop or anything like that. They wanted her to have them. So I did get some help there for sure, but in some ways, as far as like making sure that I'm paying full thing for a babysitter. I did go get WIC. Okay. And the only thing I really got from WIC, I got state insurance and I got like a little bit of food assistance from WIC. Okay. Otherwise, and they're telling me I can get this and that and cash and all. I'm like, I'm just not one for taking advantage, and I understand. Maybe looking hindsight, maybe I could have gotten a couple extra dollars. I did get some food assistance. Okay. As well, the bridge card. Yeah. When she was younger a couple times, and that was really about it. But I worked full time. I paid the babysitter. I took care of everything. Right. And like you said, you had mentioned hard times, power getting cut off, things. I had a car repossessed. For some odd bill, they came and took my car. I had to hustle up and find a car at an auction, work my butt off to get the money to get my other car back out of the yard. And it was, it makes you, due to my younger life of my mom being a single parent and stuff, it kind of made me adapt to certain things. So I had a survival instinct, adaptability, which things are going to happen, and you either make the choice of you got a couple choices. Either make sure you get this stuff done to get this done, or you better think of something quick to get done to make sure this stuff gets done, or you curl up in a ball and cry. And
right. Let me ask you, Jeff. Right. I know, and you're not, and it's evident you're not just from you even having Haley on your own. I mean, right. And your thought and your heart to say, no, I'm going to take my child with me, and she's going to stay with me. How did someone tell you about WIC?
I'm trying to recall. I think someone did, and I don't recall who. I was told I could go here, call up and get some assistance, and you can go get WIC.
Right. I remember. I just wonder because a lot of people don't know what that is, and so for those who don't,
I thought the name was kind of funny. Women, Infant, and Child.
Right.
Isn't that it?
Women, Infants, and Child. It's a special. It's a supplemental nutrition program, and so if anyone's listening, and you need help, and your children, it's infants up to age 5, and they say for low-income women, but it's also for low-income men, and they cover things. A lot of times, if you're low income, they'll give you something for yourself and the baby. If not, you'll get things for the baby. So if anybody's listening, it's called WIC, and you can look it up online. It's a government-assisted program, and they have formula for infants. They help with cereal when they get a little bit older, different milk, stuff like that. So WIC is a program that you could get. So tell me with your, with raising her, and I know you had your mom and your family going into her teenage years, say teenage. How did that look to you?
All right. Well, I'm going to, a little prior to that, real quick. She was actually a pretty good kid as far as growing up, as far as being a kid in grade school and stuff. Yeah. And as far as that goes, school was decent for her at times. She was excessively social. And there was teachers that were telling me it's getting interrupting. And I told her, I was like, I don't want to take this from you, because that skill set, if you have it now, it just needs to be honed and maintained versus stifled. And it's going to help you out later, but you just can't let it interrupt class, so on and so on. Anyway, so as she started getting older, and because we had moved, school wasn't one of the better subjects.
She was excessively social?
Yes. School was not
a little
one of the
girl.
best.
Yes.
Yep, yes. Exactly. Times 2, I think. But
times 2.
And even though she was doing that, I had her starting training in martial arts when she was 5.
Okay, good.
So anyway, so doing that, and when she started getting into high school is when it started getting into the crowd of kids that I was not too fond of. Because I've always kept her. As she was coming up, I did my best, and some of my choices were not correct, but I always tried my best to have decent female role models around her.
Okay.
As far as people to look at, people to learn from, what is right, what is wrong, how to treat people, and so on. Because, it was just me and her, and I wanted to have some female role models in her life, so I let her have that. I could see it hurt. I could definitely see it hurt her not having a mom, though, and that broke my heart.
Okay.
But so in her teenage years, though, like I said, she started getting in some of the crowds I wasn't fond of, kids that didn't do anything, that were just kind of a little bit of troublemakers, so she started turning down that road. And we had butted heads a good few times. And this whole time was roller coaster up and down for a couple of years.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to get into all the stories, but and the nice thing, though, is I'm just going to say this to dads that are coming up along that time or are concerned about it. Their peers watch the kids she hangs out with, but don't try to force them too much to do things, because if you force them too much to do things, some of them do the thing you don't want them to do times 10. All right?
Right.
So one of the things I tried to do is give her the education about stuff so she knows. And I said, I'm going to tell you this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong 100 times, but you're not going to really understand until you go do it yourself and you find out it was wrong.
Right.
Okay? So, but what I see now is the seeds that I had planted then have sprouted through. She doesn't hang out with she doesn't hang out with those people anymore. And they're not really, to be honest, as far as I know, and I hate to say it, and I hope they do better, they're not really doing anything with their life, and a couple of them already have a child or two.
Okay.
And they're the same age as Haley. She's 22.
Yeah.
So right now she's got a decent job. She is excessively skilled at doing nails, and she wants to be a nail tech. And she's actually, just as a few months ago, she's signing the paperwork for the Air Force.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So
we're an Air Force family.
Oh, yeah. My dad was in the Air Force. My grandfather was in the Navy. So.
My mom and dad were Air Force babies.
Nice. Nice.
Yep. They both are in the Air Force. I'm an Air Force baby, but okay,
Nice.
that's good, Haley. Good.
Yeah. So, like I said, the seeds you plant, sometimes I compare them to what is it? The bamboo tree takes like a good couple years before it really sprouts through. That's what I'm going to compare it to. Is they're there, and you keep kind of reminding them, but they're there. But yes, there was like a few times that we really butted heads, but after all that, it's all good now. My biggest thing is if she could just clean up a little bit after herself better right now, it'd be perfect. But yeah.
Well, she will. So
yeah,
Jeff,
she will.
let me ask you, if you don't mind sharing. Am I remembering that you were can I say that you were in a relationship and you made the decision to change that relationship? A permanent relationship? Were you getting ready to get married?
I did get married for a short time, and that's like I said, I tried to surround her with good women, and not all of them were some of the best choices, and unfortunately, that wasn't one of my better choices.
Okay. You know what? I'm like going, okay, I have known this man since my child. I cannot believe it was 16. And now my twins are something. I'm not going to tell everybody how old they are, but they are not. They're not. And I was going, okay, I think I remember this about Jeff. And listen, you walked away because you didn't make the best choice.
Right.
Now, the thing is, let me ask you this. That is your superhero. That's your power.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide that you had to step away? Because people don't know that when you have someone in your home that is not being the best influence for your child, that it needs to be over, period.
Yep.
What was your superpower in this? I mean, like, what made you, this is who you are, obviously, but what was your decision?
Just in general, after a little while, just seeing like, you know what, I tried to see if I could, I don't want to say make this work, but I tried to see if we could facilitate this, if we could make this happen, if this could happen. And unfortunately, that's the way it bounced out. She didn't truly have the best interest of having an actual family, having an actual, all this, this relationship. It was more about, for some reason, unfortunate, and this developed later on, especially, really showed herself of narcissism and what's called borderline personality disorder.
Wow, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, one thing I can say about you is he makes his own decisions, and when I talk to this man, like the other two men, I love him, and he does the right thing, and I'm so very proud of you. And I tell you all the time that I admire what you have done, and it's really incredible. So what would you like to say? And if there's anything else you want to share about this experience, please do.
Oh, yeah. Real quick, one share I want to say is I love you guys. I love the kids. Chris, on my black belt test, was the first one there and the last one to leave.
Are you talking about my son? His name is Chris.
Yeah, your son. He was the first one there and the last one to leave, and he that's my little brother.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you and your upbringing. Haley loves you guys to death.
Yeah.
Loves you guys so much, and all the way up. So one thing I gotta say, okay, so my input here is you have to step back and find your peace inside yourself.
Okay.
Praying to God, meditating, find your inner peace for that moment, because you're gonna have to take this a day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one thing I did see is a day at a time. Pick and choose your battles. but you're going to have to let them fall.
Right.
And the biggest thing is they're going to fall. And you might even have to push them down a couple times, but the best thing you can teach them is how to get back up.
Yeah.
We just had a conversation today about somebody from her work. And it was just more or less a thing of, remember when isn't it? And it was just reaffirming things that we were talking about in the past and how she handled stuff. And congratulate them. Don't forget to congratulate them when they do good.
Yes.
And there's sometimes, they do good, but they don't do the best. Just still let them know they did good, and that just support them.
Yeah. Yep. And that's good.
It is hard to find sometimes that I'm glad she's interested in stuff that can be a good, healthy lifestyle for her now.
Mm-hmm.
Versus what I've seen. A little while ago, my school was at a certain place, and it was one of the nights they ran a game night for gaming for this video game club, and you'd see some of these kids come in, and you're just looking at them going, "You guys have nothing else." I mean, I was lucky I had the martial arts school that I had picked to go to Wing Chun Do, and that she was there her whole life, pretty much. Yeah. And I told her, I'm like, it's gonna give you something of substance. And that's what important. She wanted to do other sports. I had to do soccer for a minute, but being a single parent and paying everything possible here, it was hard to, honestly, finances were tough. And I wish I had her in more stuff. I really, really wish I did. But, I'm glad she got to do train in self-defense, because to me, that's something you can have with you no matter where you go. At the end of the day, you don't need something special to do it. I wish she would pick it back up some more, but she's got her own life that she's living now, but she still remembers it.
Good. Mm-hmm. And you know what, Jeff? The thing is, you don't have to go back and ever have any regrets, which you don't. Mm-hmm. Because I tell everybody, you got to sacrifice. You just got to do it. If it's, for my children, they did everything at school, all through school, mm-hmm. and having twins is not a joke, because back and forth all the time, back and forth, mm-hmm. band, football, volleyball, drama. Mm-hmm. We were talking about the drama class last night. They still remember the routines they did. But the thing is it gave them something to do. And if anybody, if you can't, the thing is you don't want to look at yourselves, any of these men, anybody listening, you can't look at yourself and never have any regrets, when you look at your children now or your child now, and you know that you had them when they were a baby and now they're here. Roger has one in college. You have one going to the Air Force. Andrew has one in Saudi Arabia. The other one is she's doing very well. Everybody, you can look at your children now and say, I did it with prayer. I did it, like you said, with meditation. I just cleared my mind and said, I have to do this. And one point you brought up that I want to say, sure. I'm sorry?
I said, there was prayer involved for sure for me too.
Yeah. And the thing is I want to bring up one point, and that is what you said about school, about rewarding them or saying they did a good job. One big part about parenting that I always tell people, and it's something big, is you learn to reward children and you learn to reward grandchildren or children in your life for what they've done that's good, because someone is always wanting to tell you when you did something bad. So it's okay to show up at the school and just say, I heard you did good. Here's some cupcakes for class, or reward them.
Let's go get ice cream or something, because you did,
reward them for their goodness, because it will mean a lot to them. and it will cause them to start looking at ways to do things different, like, oh, wow, mom or dad, they saw me, they appreciate me. And then also active listening. Active listening is very important. A lot of people miss what's going on in their child's life and could have prevented some things if they would stop and listen. Not look on your phone, not watch TV, not sit and listen to them. And when you say, you ask them, how was your day? And they tell you, and you listen, because that's when you hear warning signs. That's when you hear things are not going well in class. This is times that you hear different things that you may not have known. But, Jeff, I want to say to you, like I told the other men, I admire you all so much. And them,
thank you so much.
What you've done is just wonderful. We love your daughter, and I continue to pray for all of you all and continue to pray for your children's success and everything they're doing. And always remember that their success had something to do with you. So I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud of all of you. Yes, you did a good job. And I watched it all. I watched Andrew. I watched Roger, what he went through, what I said. And now I know, and I watched Jeff, and it's all just absolutely wonderful. And so, Jeff, you gave some words of wisdom. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we get ready to close this out?
Yeah, make sure you, like I said, I think one of the things I value, especially when she was younger, and it really helped connect us, pretty well, even though a lot of stuff went on later on, but I think it helped keep a deeper bond connected there, is, we'd play games. I got an Xbox one time, and we played Monopoly on the Xbox, or we would sit there, we would play board games, or we would do stuff together like that. Make sure you spend some quality, just doing something fun together, and it doesn't have to cost any money. We didn't have a lot of money, so I made stuff, I did what we could do.
Yeah.
But give them some sort of structure. I had her help fold clothes. I had her do stuff,
Yeah.
But,
and that's good, because children want some responsibility.
Yes, whether they know it or not, they crave structure. So
they crave structure. That's good. Well,
and at the end of the day, the biggest thing is you got to tell yourself everything is going to be okay.
Yep, and believe it. Even if you got to say it all day, put a Post-it note in front of you and say it's all good. Whatever you have to do, you got to say it. And that's right, Jeff, because if nobody else may not tell you that, but you have to say it yourself, because you're the one that's handling this, and and that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you again. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for being on, and I thank you, and to all my guests that were on tonight, Roger Hill, Andrew Bryant, and Jeff Malice, I thank you all for being a part of this. I admire your story, and I'm sure you will be able to inspire someone else. And if anybody is listening and they are in need of any kind of assistance, whether it's parenting, understanding interventions, counseling, if you're concerned about warning signs of depression, mental health, I'm a mental health specialist, I'm a counselor, professional counselor, Christian counselor, I'm a parent coach, and as I said earlier, I am available to offer court-mandated hours for people who have to have hours for the court, and at this time, I'm pretty much can cover most states in the United States. So, and that includes Hawaii, and that does include Puerto Rico. So if you need assistance, and if I cannot offer it in your county, then I will help you find someone that can. But the information where you can contact me is in the description of this podcast, and you can reach out by email, and I will get back with you, and if you want to make a comment or anything. So, again, thank you for listening to Dr. Karen RX. Be sure to share this with someone that you know that is a single father or a single mother, parents. A lot was said in this that can help everybody all the time, but I wanted to focus tonight on single men or single parenting by men because everybody figures that a single parent is a woman, but you will be surprised how many men are out there that are single. Thank you so much for all being a part, and remember my mantra, every day you live is a second chance at life, and so I'll be back with you soon with another strong topic of Dr. Karen RX. Thank you very much.